Well, let's bring in the Deputy Spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Honorable Philip Agbese, for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
It's a pleasure, Deswa.
So the 2025 budget has now passed second reading, as we know it, in both chambers of the House. What were the major concerns in deliberating this budget?
Well, basically...
if any at all.
Yes, basically as a parliament and as people's representatives from every part of the constituency, what we basically consider, one, we look at issues like critical national assets, the direction of the government in terms of investment, key sectors like education, health, infrastructure, security, those things that affect our people on a day-to-day basis. We looked at them, and we saw the spread and the distribution of the government's proposal in that respect, and we were satisfied, even though just like you saw the reaction of Senator Victor Ume, a couple of persons raised issues concerning their individual constituencies, what they are looking at in the nearest future. We considered all of that, but I want to say this with every sense of responsibility and humility, that it was a very tough work for us as a parliament. Yeah, because one, if you look at the figure, this is the highest in the history of the country, and not just that, because as a parliament, in particular, the People's House of Representatives, we have set a very high standard in terms of scrutiny, accountability, and transparency in what we do. And that necessitated the January 16th town hall meeting, which we had, to debate and consider the budget in a mood exercise where civil society organizations, Nigerians were all present for every one of us to look at it. Yeah, because in line with Mr. Speaker's agenda, we must return the parliament back to the masses of our country.
Great. I like that you've spoken a lot about all of this. Your scrutiny, the thoroughness you have to go through to pass this budget. But, I mean, there are questions. And you look at a fiscal deficit of 13.08 trillion naira and 14.317 trillion naira allocated for debt servicing. You wonder, how sustainable is this? It's a huge chunk of the budget. Are you worried as a parliament?
Yes, we are actually worried. We are concerned about every single kobo expressed in that budget. But as a parliament, again, because when we engage experts, you recall that His Excellency, the Right Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, has introduced the interaction between parliamentarians and experts in carrying out our duties. So in doing this, we engage experts to sit with us as we engage the executive. But today, having passed that budget, that is not even our challenge. Our challenge now is to follow the budget, just like we did in 2024, to ensure that every single penny appropriated and given to the executive is accounted for. And that is why today His Excellency, the Right Honorable Speaker, once again reiterated, his firm belief that we must do more in terms of oversight, because they say to whom much is given, much is required. As a country, we are now giving to the executive over 54 trillion naira to spend on our behalf. So, Great. As a parliament, we have to follow this money. And we, just like we have always expressed, that yes, we'll even be excited if we see that the government, wants to run a budget of up to 100 trillion naira or above.
Honorable Agbese, is it enough to follow the money or to even ask where this money is coming from? Just last week, the president jacked up the budget by a 4.7 trillion naira addition, bringing it to the figure we saw before. The parliament added over 700 billion naira again today.
Yes,
but where would this monies come from?
Adeswa, it is not in our culture in the parliament to clap for the executive. But sometimes when they do things that we consider to be good, somehow we smile, even in our quiet places.
So are you clapping for the executive now over this
No,
budget?
it is not in our culture to clap for the executive, but we smile when we see that they get things
Are
right.
you smiling at the moment?
Yes, because for Mr. President, in his honesty and transparency, to come up and tell us that we have recorded additional revenue and we believe that this money should be put into investment in critical sectors like investing in providing accommodation for the security agencies, providing additional 500 billion naira to rejig industrialization in the country through the back of industry, and another 500 billion naira to be injected through the back of agri to ensure that our peasant farmers across the country, are able to produce food for us, to reduce over-reliance on foreign goods, particularly on food, which we used to produce before. That, again, will boost the economy of the country. So for us as a parliament, even though it is not in our culture to clap for the executive, we believe that the president of the country is on track, is doing the right thing, and it is our own conviction, to continue to support those things that will help to promote, the overall well-being of citizens of this great nation.
Great. 750 billion naira is what the National Assembly added to this budget today.
And
Can you break that down for us?
Yes.
750 billion naira. What exactly is this going to cover?
Yes,
what sectors are going to benefit?
Yes, I will talk about that, because at the course of the budget presentation, we had a couple of issues where the proposals that came from the executive, we didn't consider them to be, concrete enough to be able to implement, the vision and the explanation given to us. A good example is the issue of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Election is a very serious issue. What was appropriated for INEC in view of by-elections and other preparations ahead of 2027 election, of course, it was obvious. In fact, when they made the presentation, members of the committee in the Senate and the House of Representatives complained that this fund will not be enough. We raised that issue. And because the appropriation bill, is a law, in motion. When it came before the parliament has a right to do that. And again, I like to mention the issue, of emergency response to international development. Before now, we did not envisage as a nation that the President of America will be cutting aids, in the health sector. Today, we are seeing that a good example is the issue of subsidization of critical drugs, for patients across the globe.
But isn't that a knock for our country if the parliament did not envisage that we continue to live and rely on aid so much?
And again,
and we haven't done so much about it in all of this years.
Yes, again, you see, that is why sometimes beyond political affiliation or partisanship, members of the parliament are tempted, to applaud the executive for what they are doing. It took the proactiveness of Mr. President, as the leader of the country, to see that in some countries, people are still praying that the American government is going to restore, some of the declarations they have made in the last few weeks. But as a country, a serious-minded country and the giant of Africa, we have already made budgetary provision to ensure that our citizens don't suffer, for what they were used to. And that, again,
I would like you to break down, and I hate to interrupt you, but for want of time, I'd like to break down the 750 billion naira I asked you about for what is known as constituency projects. I believe is what the National Assembly included in the budgets today. What is that going to do, really? Tell us.
No, we have not included.
What is the 750 billion naira for?
You just listened to his to the distinguished senator when he mentioned 300 billion naira as input to the health sector to be able to close the gap.
That's coming out from the 750 billion.
That's coming out from the 750
billion.
So
we have a balance of 400.
Yes, yeah, we have another 80 billion which has been given to INEC. We equally have yes, at the course of deliberation, you will recall that we mentioned the issue of the National Identity Management Commission not having the necessary infrastructure to conduct the census, the National Population Commission. So these monies will be given to them, and they have basically nothing to do with constituency.
So there was no constituency projects in this budget?
No.
Not at all?
No, not at all. You see, this is exactly Mr. President's budget.
Great.
It came the way it came, and then what we did basically as parliamentarians to look at this thing across board. We went across the whole sector, and that's why I mentioned earlier when I came that it's been a very tough and thorough job for us. But thank God, we have been able to deliver. The chairman of the Appropriation Committee in the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Kabiru Bichi, he did quite a good job. Members of the committee, they've not been sleeping. We see them every day, and we see the tasks, that they have been trying to accomplish.
And the job
today,
they are paid to do.
Yeah, the
and
job.
voted to do.
The
Yes.
job. In fact, the job we solicited the support of the people to do.
All right. There's
and
a lot to talk
I'm
about.
happy that we have done this. But again, as a parliament, I want to reiterate this before Nigerians, that passing the appropriation bill is not enough for us as a parliament. We have resolved as a parliament to ensure that after today, the moment the budget is signed, we are going to follow every kobo as stipulated in that budget.
And
to
we will hold you
ensure,
to that,
yes,
Honorable Agbese.
Nigerians
Thank you so
can rightly
much.
do that.
Thank you very much. Deputy Spokesperson of the House of Representatives, Honorable Philip Agbese.